Hello, students. Welcome to another session with Miss Cindy. This is part 2 of keywords that are used during examination. Before we do that, we're going to do a quick review. I know that you did a game and I hope that you did well. And if you didn't, you might want to pay extra attention. Here goes the review. Compare and contrast. We say compare and contrast refers to both similarities and a discussion of the differences. When we hear the term contrast, we say that's all differences will be discussed. If we hear the word compare, generally it refers to only similarities, but if you're talking about CXC, it's similarities and differences. The word comment. I gave you a question that said comment on the weather, and I said that refers to your personal opinions, right? Explain. When you're explaining to someone, you will tell them, you will answer these questions: why, what, how. You're explaining how something's done, why is something done, what for. Discussion. Discussion refers to both sides, meaning you provide a variety of perspectives, either for, against, and then at the end you might provide some form of opinion. Identify. Identify means to pick out. It's right there, you just need to pick it out. Summarize. Summarize means to put in your own words a short version of it. Now here is the first term for today. Describe. What if I ask you to describe yourself? Maybe one of you would tell me, oh, I'm fabulous, I'm pretty, guapo, you're a guy. And what exactly are you doing when you do that? When you're doing that, you are providing key characteristics of yourself, right? Even if you're describing someone, you're going to provide characteristic features, traits, how the person is, not only physically, but also maybe emotionally and other elements of the person, right? So when they're asking you to describe something, even if it's not a person, if it's just a thing, they're asking you for the characteristics of that person, thing, place, whatever you're describing. Here's an example. It says, describe the problems faced by students across the world. So in this case, it's not a person, right? You're describing, that means you're providing characteristics of these problems that the students face across the globe. Here's another example. It says, describe the brother, it should say brothers, in Tijan and his brothers. So you're probably going to describe Mijan, Tijan, and Grosjean. And when you describe them, you will not only describe their physical aspect, but they will also be described their personality, right? Illustrate. People, when they illustrate, they're creating pictures, right? Creating images. Now, in writing, it refers to creating images using examples. So if they ask you to illustrate something, they're asking you to give concrete examples, which include figures and diagram, meaning like images, percentages, and the likes. Sometimes illustrate comes along with another word, another term. It doesn't always work on its own. They don't just ask you to illustrate. They might ask you to illustrate and something else, right? Here's another definition that I found very useful. In case the first definition didn't make sense to you as much, it says, make your point clear with the use of specific examples, figures, diagrams, and graphs, and others, right? So it says, make your point clear. So you are providing examples to your particular point. That's illustrate. Here is an example of illustrate. It says identify. If you notice, it has two terms, right? Identify the character traits that can be seen in Scout from the beginning of the novel to this point. And then what are they telling you? Illustrate each of the character traits you have identified. So you're not just going to say Scout is a tomboy, but you will illustrate. And what does it mean to illustrate? Is to provide example, provide details, right? The other term, which is very easy, is list. If you go to the shop, you're going to take a list, right? And that means that you're going to put a bunch of items. So what does it mean to list? It means to itemize something, to put in order. It's a form of requested information. You're not providing details, you're just putting a list in it. Now, this is a little bit different from identify, because list doesn't require you to go in something and pick it out. When you identify, they're telling you, here's this, identify from this piece of work something. When they ask you to list, it's just requiring something that might not be in the passage or whatever. So keyword here is itemize. Here's an example. It says list the elements of prose. So in this case, you're going to say, oh, the elements of prose, and then put a list of these elements, setting, characters, etc., right? Outline. What does it mean to outline? So outline your hand? Not really. That's not what we're referring to. When we say outline in a question, we mean this. Give an overview of the subject in an organized way without going into too much detail. So key terms here is, first of all, it needs to be something that is an overview of everything, right? So let's say they're giving you a question that says outline some form of story. That means you need to give an overview of the story. And not only that, it needs to be organized. You don't want to just have it all over the place, right? Here's an example. It says briefly outline what happens in the poem. Sorry about the S. Poem A Stone Throw. What are they asking you to do? They're asking you to tell me in an orderly fashion what happened in the poem, right? So in the poem A Stone Throw, the beginning, it's a woman, she's being stoned, somebody defends her, and then people walk away, right? So that would have been something like an outline that they're asking you. Orderly fashion, and in a way, you are giving an overview of what happens throughout. Last word is state. This is easy as well. It says provide a short, concise answer without explanation. Remember, identify is to pick out, no explanation, right? State means you provide an answer that is not lengthy either. And there's no need to discuss and explain, just a short answer. Keyword here is concise answer. Here's an example. It says state 2 factors that affect students' test scores. You can say 2 factors that affect students' test scores are lack of sleep, lack of studying. So that's the terms. I think there are about 13 by now. And we're going to do a quick review of all of the words. Hopefully you have them in your head and didn't need to replay this. So the first word is compare. Compare, we said, means similarities. Compare and contrast, we said, refers to similarities and differences. Contrast refers to differences. Comment means your personal opinion. Explain, remember explaining why, what, how something happened. Discuss for, against, all opinions, and then maybe at the end you can provide your own. Identify means to pick out, point out, take out from a particular passage. Summarize means use your own words to say it in short. Describe means I am providing characteristics of something. Illustrate, remember we said we're providing images by using figures, examples to prove your point. List, we said put it in a list of items, put it in an organized manner, a list. Outline, we said overview of everything. And in a way, you're putting this in an orderly fashion. State, short, concise, no explanation. So that's the end of this particular lesson. I hope that you understood. And if you still have questions, feel free to message me.